Yep, so sorry about that. I don't know, there was some voice issue in the background, but now we should be okay. We'll wait for Maria to come back on again. But like I was saying, it's really amazing to have these live sessions with people um, all over the world, especially right now. We've got Maria again, so let's take her in.
Hello,
Hey,
can you
I
hear
can
me
hear you
well?
now better.
Can you see me well?
Yes,
Super. So yeah, I was just saying, so please introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what you do. So yeah.
yes. Hi, everyone. So, my name is Maria Cecilia Mendoza, but you can call me Maria. I know my name is very long. And I am located in South Carolina in the United States. And I specialize in retail. I call it retail,
Okay.
in retail residential. I love selling new construction and single family homes. Um, and in our area, we're very known for being by the beach. It's a area where a lot of people from all over the country come and retire.
Okay.
So kind of like the people make their money, let's say up north in New York, let's say, and then they would come and retire in South Carolina. So my market, it's very, we have, especially right now, we have a lot of new construction communities.
Okay.
And so things are kind of building and definitely selling quite fast compared to some areas in the rest of the country.
That's good to know. So that's going to be part of my conversation as well. So you, just to get the conversation going, have you always, like from the start or from the very young age, did you always think that you wanted to get into property or you wanted to be a broker in this industry? I mean, how did you come about becoming a property agent?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I honestly never thought about necessarily becoming a real estate agent, but I have always been in sales.
Okay.
And one thing I knew since I was very young is that I definitely knew that I wanted to have my own business one day.
Okay.
And I actually relocated back into where I am now about 4 years ago. I used to live in New York.
Okay.
And before that, I lived in Miami when I was going to school for college.
Okay.
And I think it just kind of like all my experience, I sort of, when I look back, I saw this consistency of being in sales and in management. And then before I made the transition to relocate back to South Carolina, because that's where my family is,
Okay.
it just kind of was like a intuitive feeling. I just knew that the best thing to get into, and I knew that I would be great. I would be real estate. So I kind of took a professional assessment on it and making sure that my skills were matching the description of being an agent. And
Okay.
I mean, I love it. It was the best decision I've made.
You mentioned that you were in sales before. I mean, what were you
Yes.
exactly doing in sales?
Yeah. So just kind of like to take it back a little bit farther. So I went to I have a degree, a bachelor's degree in fashion design, and I graduated from the Art Institute in Miami, Florida. And when I
Okay.
was in Miami after I graduated, I was kind of throughout my tenure of college, I interned in different, I did many different internships.
Okay.
One of them that I really kind of liked was definitely high end sales.
Yep.
So I got into sales since I was in Miami, Florida. My first company that I started was with Coach.
Okay.
And then I went into luxury management with Thomas Pink, actually from the UK.
Wow.
And I love Thomas Fink, and that's how I kind of was introduced to high level management and obviously luxury fashion, and I just fell in love with it. I
So
had great
fashion on
mentors.
one side, which is an amazing industry to be in,
Yes,
and then jumping yourself into property. I mean, that's a superb transition, because fashion is really fast. Like, I
it
mean,
is.
property is fast, but fashion outpaces property in many ways. Like all over the world, there are different fashions and everything, and you have to keep up with those things. So it's good to know that the transition that you had from a really fast-paced industry coming to a slower, fast-paced industry. I mean, did you see that transition going really well for you, or did you have any hardships uh, being a fashion agent to a property agent?
I think actually that's an awesome sort of relation that you just made, because I definitely saw it, but I think for me, I kind of took my experience and maximize it, which
Okay.
I think is one of the reasons why I have been able to grow such a faster pace than other agents that are brand new in the business.
Yep.
When I lived in I relocated from Miami to New York back in 2011. And when I went to New York, I was actually at the flagship of Thomas Pink on 57th and Madison Avenue. So being at a flagship and working obviously retail, you're right. That I mean, I it was incredibly fast paced.
Yep.
And then from there, I went to an even faster pace in Bloomingdale. So I mean, at any given time, we had lines of people. So you have to be incredibly fast, and you have to capture people. If not, you will lose the sale.
Absolutely.
And I think also too, like in New York, like the mindset, everybody just works at a faster pace, and because it's so competitive. And
Absolutely.
so moving
Especially
from
like
New York,
people compare New York to London, right? But I
oh my
think
God, yes.
London sort of outpaces New York in many ways, that because America seems to be a bit more further away in the world, and
Hmm.
London's like that city that people come to first, possibly all over the world. They stop in the UK first and then possibly move on to the US. But you know,
Yeah.
it's comparing the two cities. I've been to the US, but I've never been to New York,
Hmm.
and I've never seen that fast paced life that people always, you know, like uh, what's that?
Talk about,
Alicia
yeah.
Keys talking about New York, you know, where dreams are made, you know, and
Yes.
I think London is the same sort of in the same sequence where dreams are made and opportunities are such that first myself, I wouldn't think that I would be able to move to New York any day, because the
Yeah.
amount of opportunities that I work with in London, it's like second to none. And
Hmm.
that is why I want to understand the USA real estate market today from you. That
Yes.
what is the difference between the USA real estate market and the UK real estate market? So that's one of the conversations that I also want to have with you. So coming back to then you went to New York and then you came back to South Carolina, and
Yes.
then is that when you started into the real estate market?
Yes. So when I relocated back to South Carolina, that's when I got into real estate. And where I moved in South Carolina, the state is very seasonal,
Okay.
meaning that in here luxury retail doesn't it's not really a market for it. It just doesn't exist.
Okay.
Everybody here, their lifestyle is very relaxed. It's you're by the beach, so you're not going to be in a suit and a tie like you would in New York, let's say,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
uh, so that's how I was able to get into real estate. And so, being that South Carolina is more like a coastal living, majority of the people that live here, they're retirees.
Okay.
It's a lower paced environment. So when you're coming from New York and people, I'm used to getting to people right away, moving fast. I mean, people expect information incredibly, fast at a fast pace.
Yep.
And coming to South Carolina where everything is a little slower, I was like, oh my God, I was going nuts because like, oh my God, people are taking forever to get back to me. Are you kidding me? And you're selling real estate in sandals? It would just blow
Yeah.
my mind.
I
But
mean, the same thing
now,
over here as well. Like London is so fast paced, and then when I go to property viewings up in Birmingham or Manchester or Liverpool or even on the coast somewhere, you know, like you feel like, oh wow, where are you, man? This is
uh,
like village for me, you know. Anything outside London, I feel like it's a village, you know. It's that sort of system I'm trained to. But then it is slow. It is really slow. When you go out of
yeah,
London, things start closing down at 7, 8 o'clock in the evening, whereas London, you know, it's open till like 11, 12 o'clock. I'm talking like bars, restaurants, all that kind of
right.
stuff. Shopping closes up, but then, you know, it's good to have good to have that fast pace, you know, city living and
Mhm.
all that kind of stuff. But then I live in the suburbs, so when I want that slow pace, that's the only amount of slow pace
You
in my
have
life.
it, right?
When I come home and you know, you're like, yeah, relaxed. But yes, so coming back to real estate, did you? I know that you're Century 21 affiliated
Yes.
real estate agent. So when you started your career as a real estate agent, did you always start it with Century 21, or did you move on to Century 21 doing something before?
Yeah, so no, my first since I've been in the business, I've been with the same company. But one of the things that I was able to do is that I did my kind of due diligence before becoming an agent and picking my firm. So what I did is I researched some of the companies that I felt that I could see myself based
Okay,
on location, and not necessarily in terms of how big they were, but just location that was convenient for me. And I interviewed 5 different firms. And out of the
okay,
different firms that I interviewed when I first got into the business, the company that I'm currently in, I felt that um, I would have access. For me at the very beginning is very important, especially when you're a brand new agent. You definitely required sort of, and also knowing my personality, I know what I need at the beginning, so I can kind of like, after that, just kind of get on my own. And so
okay,
out of all the firms that I interview, I just felt that my company was going to be a place where I could have access to my broker, where I could have a great support system of people that have been in the business for basically all their life. And it's not big, it's actually a very small firm, and it's a very small family owned. And I really like that sort of family feel. And it's in a great location, and I picked it based on that, based on sort of the energy and the experience as a whole for the firm when I picked where I'm at with Century 21 Coastal Lifestyles.
okay. And
Hmm.
as are you currently working there as a consultant, or are you? I mean, what I'm trying to get at, are you self-employed working there, or are you employed by the company itself? How does it work out there?
Yes, so I'm actually really excited to kind of share this because,
Absolutely, please do.
um,
Because
yeah,
we have
because
Century 21 out here as well. And
yeah. So I
obviously
was gonna
Century
say,
21 is all over the world, you know,
yeah.
but
So when I had the opportunity to actually visit London my last year for about 12 days,
okay,
and I met with one of the Century 21. I stayed by the Aldgate. I stayed in central London, but then I visited the nearest Century 21 for me, where I was in London. It was one in Waterloo, I think.
okay,
and
yep,
I just met with one of them, and I was so shocked how, or I guess surprised, how different real estate works in the UK versus the United States. And so
absolutely.
in where I'm at, in South Carolina and also in the United States at least, so we are considered real estate agents are considered independent contractors, and
All
so
over the
in order,
US, it works like that.
I believe it does.
Okay,
But yeah, so in my area or South Carolina, but I think it does for the rest of the country as well. Don't quote me, and I'll have to kind of confirm. But so yes, we're considered independent contractors. But in order
okay,
for the state to release the real estate license for us to practice real estate, we have to be under a firm. And
okay.
so that's why we have to be under a franchise, or if you want to obviously be with an independent
And it is
company.
compulsory for every agent out there to have a license to practice real estate.
Yes, you have to have a license to practice
Okay, because
real
over
estate.
here it's not there. I mean, here you can be registered with organizations. There
Hmm.
are certain organizations that if you have a license with, you're considered like you know, possibly more legit than other estate agents. But then anyone can get up in London and tomorrow decide that okay, I want to be a property agent, and they can. You know, so
Yes.
over here you don't have to have that license, or it's not compulsory to be with an organization as such.
Hmm. Yeah. So in here, there's, I mean, compared to obviously other jobs, it's fairly easy to get into the business, but you do have to go through X amount of hours to take classes. You take an estate exam and then like a classroom exam, and they do a credit check, a background check, and all those things in order
Wow.
for you to become a real estate agent.
And these
And
exams are like multiple choice questions, or they're like essay written questions? I mean, if you can just
yeah,
take me
so
through that.
they're in the class. You do have to. I forgot the hours, and I should have wrote it down, but I know they changed it recently because when I first got my license, it was back in 2016, and the structure has changed since then to now. But before, I think we did like, I can't even remember, 60 to 90 hours the first time, and then we took a test at the end of the class, and you have to pass the class exam in order for you to be able to take the state exams,
Wow.
for you to get licensed. And they're pretty hard. I mean, they're questions that they want to make sure that you comprehend the different brokerage relationships and some of the
Yeah.
laws. And they give you a lot of real examples. And when you're new and don't have any experience, you have no, like, it doesn't, it's there's kind of difficult at the beginning.
So through these
Um,
exams, you tend to learn the system and what's actually put through within the real estate market. I mean, you get to have the idea of how you have to work as a broker. Am I correct in saying that?
Exactly. So yeah, so the purpose of taking the classes is really for you to familiarize yourself and learn all of the state and local laws.
Okay.
And one
And
of the
these laws
advantages,
are same across the US, or they change
no,
from state to state?
correct. They change from state to state, and
Okay.
also depending on like very local county, they change. But
Wow.
exactly, like North Carolina practice completely different laws than we do, and so as Florida, New York. So I can even speak in regards to the market in those states because the laws are slightly different.
Wow.
Um, but yes, but we can obviously cross sell. I mean, all over the country. That's no
I mean, let's
problem.
say if someone came up to you today, let's say from London, watching this live right now, and they said that Maria is an amazing agent. I learned a lot from her. This is just a hypothetical example.
Right.
Uh, and they say that, Maria, I want to use your service to buy an apartment in New York. Would you be able to do that?
Okay, so the difference between us and the UK, so in here in America, I guess like locally in South Carolina, we do have a buyer representation.
Okay.
So we can take that buyer and I can sell him any property along within my scope of my license, right? Which in this case will be any of the counties. And
Okay.
it doesn't have to be my listing. It can be any other brokerage listings and I can assist that buyer. Now, when it comes to
Hello. Sorry.
me,
Yep. Yep. All well.
yes. So when it comes to a buyer wanting to purchase a property, let's say you say in New York, right?
Yep.
I cannot personally assist him there, but I do have referral partners that I
Okay.
can refer him to that will be able to assist him in New York. Because I
And
don't have a.
would you be paid a commission from that?
So what we do here is that we get referral fees. So for
Gotcha.
example, um, let's say I have clients that are relocating to New York or they're relocating to Florida. I will find one of my referral partners, which I can work with any, not just Enter 21 agents, but I can work with any agent that I have a relationship with, and they
Gotcha.
will take care of everything. And then normally, depending on the states, depending on the agent, I mean the referral fees range from 25 to 30 to 35%
Of the
from
property
the.
deal.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So you could
Um,
technically, it's basically that if someone gets referred to you today from anywhere in the world, you could sell them a property anywhere in the US
yes, but now.
using the other agent services, of course.
Exactly. But
Okay.
now one of the things that I'm personally, or Tessa, that I actually signed up at I think it was last year, and that's something that I'm willing to do. But because we're so small in South Carolina, we actually the not enough people sign up for the class, so it got canceled. So I have to go to a bigger city for me to get this designation. So what is available to us here in the States is that as real estate agents, you can take different courses that would allow you to have multiple designations. And
Okay.
there is a designation available that that is basically like an international property specialist.
Yep.
And what that would allow me is we go through classes and learn about all the different currencies around the world and markets. And then
Okay.
that would allow me to kind of market myself in every sort of country if I wanted to. And then I can do international cross selling. And then let's say, and then that would be, so then that I would be able to do that. Let's say somebody who's watching this live would like to purchase an investment property here in South Carolina, or whether in New York, or whatever the case may be.
Yep.
I will be able to work with that person, or even vice versa here. I would be able to, if one of my clients would like to invest, let's say in the UK, and I
Yep.
can talk to you, then I could be able to do that and get compensated because of the designation.
Here there's no such issue that if a client gets recommended from anywhere in the world to the UK, they can invest. And I personally can show them multiple properties all the way from London going up to Scotland. So it doesn't matter where they want to buy. But it's good to know that how it works in the US. Um, so coming back to your real estate life,
Yes.
how does it work with Century 21 in the US? I mean, do you have a basic salary that they give you, or no, it's strictly commission based throughout?
Yes. So no. So because we are independent contractors, you're technically your own business.
Okay,
And because you are your own business, some agents, if you kind of want yourself to get set up in the more correct way, the right way would be obviously to get yourself incorporated, right? Like a
okay,
normal LLC or whatever structure works for you.
yeah.
And no, you don't get any salary. You're 100% commission based.
And what is that
Um,
commission structure? Like 40%, 50%
So,
of the deal?
Mortaza, honestly, I was thinking about it, and I'm not sure if I'm able to talk about how much we get
Uh,
paid.
okay, that's fine. It's all
So,
right.
but I will be happy to disclose it to you. But this is how more or less, I don't know that because, so in our area, and I
Sorry to
don't
put
know,
you on the spot, huh? I
no, it's
apologize.
okay. And I knew it was gonna come up. Honestly, I knew it was gonna come up, and I was like, oh, I should ask my manager, but I ran out of time, so it's okay.
It's all right.
Uh, but I want to make sure that I don't want to get in trouble or like somebody
No, no,
report
no.
me or
Don't.
something.
If you can't disclose it, don't disclose it. I don't want you to get into
Yes,
trouble.
what I will say in terms of the structure and how it works is that, let's say, like when I list my properties, I obviously representing the seller and I have the contract for that property.
Yep.
We charge the seller a fee, a total fee of, let's say, you know, I don't know, depending on the brokerage, but obviously I have my own prices, right? But for the most part, everybody, it's the same. So let's say it's like 6 to 7 apples, right?
Yep.
And then so from that, we split it with a buyer agent. So the real estate agent that brings us the buyer, we split those
But wouldn't it
apples.
happen that you would have the property, and then let's say a buyer walks into your office and says, "Okay, I want to buy this property." Then you don't have to split that commission with a buyer agent, right? I mean, is
We
is
don't
is a
because
buyer always represented by an agent, or no? They can just
no, not necessarily, but we are required that we do disclose to them the available representations that are available to them. Should
okay,
they choose to remain a customer or become a client, then obviously it's their decision.
okay,
And let's say that they, at that time, they can still buy from you, from the listing agent, but some of the clients, they still want representation. So we have kind of different agencies available to the buyer. And
okay.
when you're the listing agent, you can either leave them as a customer, so then that way you continue to represent your seller, um, and leave the buyer as a customer, right? But you still have to be honest and provide comps and all the information. You just can't advise them on pricing. Um, and then, or you can become a dual agent. And when you become a dual agent, then basically you kind of become the middleman because you can't advise either party about pricing.
But that's a
Um,
great commission that you guys have in the US. I mean, over here it's like 1 or 2%. Maybe
I
you can
know.
get maybe you can maybe you can stretch the seller and make it like 3%, but it's like normally between 1 and 2%. It doesn't get any more than that. I mean, no more no, because they already know the market, right? The sellers
Mhm,
know the market out here, that what the agents are paid.
mhm.
But yes, let's say if it's up in Birmingham or Manchester or Liverpool, the price point is lower to what the price point is in the US in London. So then the
Mhm.
commission structures change to like maybe in Birmingham you would get 5% because the pricing of the market is like for a two-bedroom apartment it would be for £100,000, whereas
Yeah.
in London, in central London, for a two-bedroom apartment you would be paying an average of maybe half a million to a million, maybe more. So the price point is such that the commission structures work out possibly the same way. But it's good to know about that. Um, Now, in terms of the market changing, okay, just to go back maybe a few years, how was the real estate market in the US or South Carolina as you're based there? How was it there, and what has been the difference to today, and how are you adopting yourself to working today? I
Mhm.
mean, just to
Well,
take me.
I haven't been in the business for so long, but this is my fourth year. And this
Okay,
is actually my second year being full-time agent because I started as a
okay,
part-time agent.
okay.
But what I do know is that um, back in what was it, like in the 2007, 2008, right? Obviously, a lot of people like buy extremely high.
Yep,
So right now, what I'm seeing, what I'm personally seeing when I'm listing properties or just kind of like in general, right, is that some sellers continue to be underwater a little bit because obviously they bought at the peak of the market at that time. And
yep.
right now, the values here, they're not the same, but I think right now they're as close as we probably will ever be in terms of property values.
Okay.
So things in terms of properties in our area, we have seen an appreciation of between, let's say, 4 to 6%, depending on the county or communities, because some of
You
the
mean in this year alone?
yes, from compared to
Wow.
yes. So things are honestly they have been great. I
So
mean, we
you're
have
not
the
you're not seeing any difference in the market as such. I mean,
no.
there's no slowdown or anything like that. People are still buying, and the market is going
Yes.
on the way it is.
Yes. Yes. Before, like right before the pandemic or like COVID, let's say, right?
Yep.
I mean, we were selling properties at such a fast pace because of all of the people that are now retiring that are moving to South Carolina. And I think that in personally in my business and what I have been able to speak to some of my colleagues since the whole pandemic and obviously like the shutdown that we kind of had, and I think we're still even probably still moving more property than compared to other areas in the country, but in our area we only saw a little bit of a slowdown of people that were very income driven,
Okay.
people that were obviously, let's say, were working in the hospitality industry. I mean, if they were looking to buy or if they were under contract, I mean, it's either one, the contracts fall through, two, they get delayed until they get back to work, or three, they're going to have to wait a little bit until they get back to work, right?
Yep.
But for the most part, because majority of the people that are currently buying, they're either one have fixed incomes. So what's happening, their income is really not going to change whether we have a pandemic or not.
Yep.
So that's why we're still continue to see properties
But have
moving.
you had like mortgage holidays and things like that currently in the US or in the state
What do you
that
mean
you're in?
mortgage nowadays?
Over here in the UK, they've introduced like mortgage holidays where people can take a time because of lockdown and a lot of people getting furloughed from the jobs, being made
Mm-hmm.
redundant, and all that kind of stuff. They've had like government has started this incentive through the banks that give these people maybe a 2 month or a 3 month holiday to pay their mortgage.
Mm-hmm. So what we have seen or what we currently have is that depending on the really like the mortgage company or the lender that you have to process your mortgage, they're giving you an option where you can do what is called forbearance.
Okay.
And what that is, which I don't think is very helpful, because or if you're not necessarily being financially affected because of the pandemic, some people have decided to obviously use that time of forbearance. But really what that is that, let's say, for 3 months you're not required to make payments for your mortgage.
Yep.
But then at the end of, let's say, 3 to 4 months, depending on the bank and
The
depending on
interest will catch up.
not only the interest, but then your full payment for the past 3 months will due at that time.
Oh, at the same
So
time.
yes, so
Wow.
it's like if you were not if you don't if you can still continue to make your monthly payments on your mortgage, go ahead and do that because that's not very smart. That even if you make the minimum, like I had clients that were doing, I mean, they were sending extra money to their monthly principals, and instead of completely not paying them at all, I mean,
Yep.
they just stop,
They're
let's say,
paying they're
doing
paying they're
extra.
paying a certain
Right,
amount towards it and keeping it
just do
as
the
much
extra.
as. Gotcha.
Yes, so that's one of the, I guess, options that people have. But I mean, forbearance is not necessary. It's not like you get in free money. I mean, nothing. What I say is nothing is free in
There is no
America,
free
right?
money. There is
Exactly.
no.
No.
It'd
So
be around
you
the
can.
world. It's.
Yeah, so and including with student loans. I mean, I have student loans, and same thing. A couple of my Department of Education loans were put on forbearance, and I called back. I said, no, I don't want them in forbearance because number one, my total principal is going to increase.
Yep.
Number two, my payments are going to increase also. So
Yep.
it's like I'm fine. Like take them back, and it's funny because they automatically put them on forbearance. So
Oh,
I
so
called
you
them
have
back.
to
I said,
contact them and say that.
yes,
Okay.
yes. So it's like, no, put them back because I don't want to be in forbearance. I want to continue to pay them because I don't want the principal to, keep growing. I want to pay them off, obviously.
Great.
So you kind of have to
So
be,
so people in the US should be listening to this. Don't take the scheme from the government. Don't listen to the government. Pay
nothing
the
is free in America.
pay your mortgages. Um,
Yes, at least
what
the
I
minimum, pay it.
what you mentioned that South Carolina is a state where a lot of people come to retire.
Yes.
So does that make the state a very old age state?
Oh, no, not at all.
Okay.
Because you have a lot of young families here. I mean,
Okay.
the public school system is great, and actually, one of the areas where I work in the Horry County, it's called the Carolina Forest in Myrtle Beach. Is
Uh,
located in Myrtle Beach. They have
okay.
one of the best schools in the state. So a lot of young families kind of move here, and that's where they want to buy, or that's where they want to send their children to schools, because it's one of the best schools in the area.
Yep.
So you kind of have it's a very diverse state, but obviously because we do have the beach, you kind of attract a lot of tourists. You have a lot of people that would like to retire here. The cost
Yep.
of living, I mean, it's very low compared to, let's say New York. Like, for example, um, in New York, when I was living there, I was paying $1,100 to rent a room in Williamsburg, in Brooklyn. And in South Carolina, that $1,100, that could be a mortgage payment of a
No
single family home,
way.
3 bedroom, two bath
Wow.
home.
That's great.
So the difference, and that's why I moved, because I said, okay, long term, does it make sense for me to still make a good living, right? By
Yep.
maintaining all of my debt, let's say, where I could be basically building equity if I own a home versus like paying rent for the rest of like 20, 30 years. I'm not familiar, obviously, I didn't sell real estate in New York, and I'm not familiar with the average pricing, but I am pretty sure that you will not be able to get anything there under $1
I
million.
mean, New York is New York, right?
Right.
You are going to pay a lot, like over here as well. Like the amount of rent that I pay for my house in London,
Mm-hmm.
if I were to move to Birmingham or Manchester, that could be the mortgage payment.
Exactly.
That's how it works. But it's the priority that if I move to Manchester, I'm not going to have the same opportunities of real estate that I have staying in London. So I have to kind of manage those priorities the way I got to do it. Um, Now, I just wanted to ask you, how long did it take when you started this? Obviously, you were building your experience and everything.
Yes.
Question is, how long did it take you? Do you also look at rentals, or you just look at sales? Is
I
there a
don't.
rental market in South Carolina?
There is, and actually, people are always looking for rentals because um, a lot of people, not everybody's able to buy. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
people that still rent. I don't do rentals. I don't specialize in them. I only specialize in sales. But in my company, they do have a rental department. And you kind of see that throughout. I think that South Carolina, or at least where we are in the Grand Strand area, is very popular for short-term rentals, being that we're by the beach.
For
There's a
tourism
lot
and
of
all that kind of stuff.
exactly. There's
Gotcha.
a lot of people that buy condos and they rent them through their own, or they rent them through the on-site rental
Gotcha.
companies that they have.
Gotcha.
So you'll see a lot of that short-term rentals. That's like a big thing in our area for
And
sure.
what's the average ROI that people get on their investments? Like, what's the over here in London, for example, it's like 3% net.
Oh my gosh, are you ready to
Yeah.
hear ours?
Tell me.
So really depending, also this is depending obviously on the area, depending on price point and all of those things.
Average.
But I
We're
would
talking
say,
South Carolina as an
yes,
average.
right. But I would say an average in our area, I would say an average of between 6 to 8%,
Not bad.
depending on where you buy.
Not bad. I mean, we get these 6 to 8% up north, Birmingham, Manchester, and all these places. But London, if
Yeah.
you were in central London, you're not getting more than 3%. Okay, you can double that ROI if you were to do short lets, but then you have those large vacant periods,
Hmm.
you know, and tourism in London, especially during, I would say, between April to October, because the season is such that people tend to come. But obviously now lockdown, we've been hit massively by tourism in terms of people coming over to the UK and all that. But yeah, I mean, that's how you would possibly double your ROI and get the 6% in London if you had to. Question that I wanted to ask you is,
Yes.
what was the price of the first property you sold in South Carolina?
Oh, that's such a good one, and I still remember it to this day because I happen to be working with the same seller right now. Um, the my first contract, and it took 6 months because it was brand new construction. It was for 120,000, and for
Not
our
bad.
area, that's actually really high because the average price now, this is for all properties, whether it's a condominium, well, just on single family homes. Let's just focus on single family homes. So our average price in the past 6 months for our single family homes is 245,000.
Wow.
But if I was to pick an average price, whether it's a condominium or single family home, then we're looking at a 200, like two and a quarter, 230,000.
Okay.
So my first sale was amazing because, like, oh my God, it was for
Yeah.
120,000. So like, Maria, oh my gosh, that's amazing.
And was that the highest that you sold, or was that like, no, you've done higher
That
than
was
that?
the highest that year that I sold
No, in total
because
in your career, is that the highest that you sold,
no,
or you've
no, no,
gone
no, no,
higher?
no, no, no,
Okay,
no. And no, I have sold last year. I closed on a property that I was over
half
half
a
a
million.
million, and then right now, I just closed on one that it was also over
No, I
half.
was I was I was following your life story, so I kind of saw what
Thank
you've
you,
been, what have
thank
you
you.
been
And I'm
doing.
getting ready to list a beautiful one for over. I think we're probably gonna list around 670.
Not bad. And
So yes.
let's say as an investor, if someone came up right now and let's say they wanted to buy that 670, the return on that would be
Well,
approximately six to
actually,
seven percent.
that would be amazing because that property that I'm getting ready to put up for sale, they on a gross like annual income, they make over 68 like $70,000 in rental income.
So
It's a beach house.
that's 10% nearly.
Yes, but then again, the properties, depending on how close they are to the beach or depending on the community, some of the HOAs here, they're very high because they include a lot of, whether it's a lot of amenities or they include, the insurance being that they're so close to the beach. So yes, you make a lot of, the return. It depends because the expenses are really high on the properties as well.
Okay, service charge, maintenances, and all that kind of stuff. And the houses
Yes.
that are sold there, are they sold as freehold or they're sold as leaseholds?
Um,
I don't know. I mean, we have it here like freehold and leasehold. Like when you buy a house, it's freehold. The land's yours and the house is yours.
yes. Yes,
But
that's
but
exactly how.
sometimes when you buy a house within a private gate, like like townhouses kind of thing, and you buy it
Hmm.
within a private gated development, then sometimes it's sold as a leasehold where they'll give you a lease of 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, but then you have to renew your lease when it comes to maybe 50 years or something.
Yes.
Uh,
So
so, yeah, go
majority
ahead.
of the properties in South Carolina, you definitely own the land,
Okay.
but there are some communities that are that you do have to. The land is a lease. Sometimes they have like 60-year leases, um, but that's not very common in our area. But you do have some communities that you will never, you will never be able to own the land. You just kind of rent it or
And
like lease it.
in terms of the capital appreciation of the
Mhm.
property, how long does it take to possibly double? Like in London, we've got an average time of, let's say, about 8 to 10 years for your money to double easily. So in
Mhm.
South Carolina, I mean, how long would someone be waiting to double their money?
I mean, honestly, Murtaza, I think that it's very, it just really depends on the community because some of the communities that we have within the same zip code, and being that we have so much growth, I mean, right now we have at least 14 communities that I can think of within the same zip code or next to each other, right?
Yep,
That that some of them have already seen like a $10,000-15,000 gain from a year or like less than 2 years, right?
yeah.
So it just really depends on the community, like the area, because some of them you
The
will see a
you
faster
mean the
return than
location,
others.
right? I mean the location.
Yes, I mean
Yep,
location is everything. So you will see a faster return on your money within the same zip code, and you don't have to wait 8-9 years to see that return, whether it's 4 to 5 6%. You don't, sometimes you don't have to wait the 9 years, and it really goes in cycles depending on the community. So it's kind of hard to be able to gauge, but at large, people tend to kind of what was I gonna say, people tend to kind of do that exchange of housing within like 8 to 9 years or so.
so they
um,
change their house every 8 to 9 years, something like that.
Exactly.
Good to know that.
But yes, but some of them now you kind of see that even faster just because as there's more new communities in the area, people looking to downsize. So a lot of the times when people are just relocating from New York, right, they're excited. They think that all their family members are going to come to visit them. They end up buying a really big house to then realize 2 years later that nobody really comes to
No one
visit
can.
them, and then they're stuck with this big house. So then you have people that are honestly changing homes within 4 years. Um,
And
so
then they,
it's the
and then
turnover is quite fast.
when they're changing their homes, they're actually changing cities as well, or I mean states.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
A lot of them just like to downsize. I think that some of them, once they kind of see the community getting older, or kind of see whether the values kind of changing, or just sort of the people in the neighborhood. I mean, people tend to kind of follow each other, right?
Yep.
So if there's a new community that they like better that just opened up, then it's very common that they kind of drag their friends with them, and then you kind of see a lot of people relocating from community or from, like, let's say zip code to zip code. But then you
Yep.
do have people that go back to their states mainly because of family or maybe like illness or things of that nature. But you kind of see both.
That's really, I mean, I've had some amazing insight about the, not just, I mean, I'm sure that other states possibly work according to the same system. So I do want to speak to a few agents up in New York, possibly Houston, Florida, all these places, just to understand the market. So if you could recommend some agents that I can speak to, that'd be great. On a final note,
Yes.
why would you think, why should someone, let's say from the UK, come and invest in the US on a whole? Just, we're
Mhm.
not talking about the state here, but just on a whole, why would you recommend someone to come and invest in the US?
Yeah, well, I think that when I don't know if I mentioned to you, but when I went to London, one of the things that I'm part of my community here is that I'm part of a global council committee,
Okay.
and our main goal, or really where our what our goal is that are trying to grow awareness about our area,
Okay.
because I find that a lot of people, especially like, people in the UK, we were able to kind of partner with our county, and what they did is they pulled the report of all the sales from people, the different people from all over the world really that are investing in South Carolina. And what
Okay.
we found is that we have very few to almost no international investors that are
Buyers.
coming
Okay.
to exactly to that buy in the area, right? And
Yep.
I think that one of the things is because our airport, um, it doesn't offer international flights. And
Okay.
when I went to London and met one of the, like what I was telling you, Mark
Yep. Yep.
from Nia, one of the things that we talked about was, I think for for people from the UK to be able to come and invest in South Carolina, it has to be easy. And I personally, when I travel there, I mean, I had to have I had to get on 2 3 planes before I even had a straight one.
No
So it was
way.
such a long flight,
Wow.
even when I went to California last year. So I'm thinking, in order for people to come and invest more in our area, we kind of have to make it easy for people to actually get here, for them to see the area.
Yep.
um, but I think a large, if I have to say that, it's an incredibly low cost of living. People in the area are very nice. um, and we have access to the beaches, are beautiful, and we're kind of right in the middle between, if people don't want to go all the way down to South Florida, right? But you don't want to be in the very cold. We're kind of in between. And
Okay.
so we're kind of in an area where you kind of have access to different states very
Okay.
easily. And it's a low cost of living. The other thing that is very attractive to our area, and that's why a lot of people from up north are relocating here, is our taxes. I mean, it is very common in the people, people that live in New York, that they pay, I don't know, 12, 15, $16,000 in yearly taxes for their property. In
Yep.
South Carolina, you only pay, when you become a South Carolina resident, you only pay 4% of the
No
total assessed
way.
value of the property.
Wow.
So for a property that is worth about $250,000, your taxes will be what, around under $1,500 a year. That's like getting a raise if you're living in other states. And so even if you own a second home, the second home rate, it's only 6% of the total assessed value of the property.
And then
So
that just keeps carrying on, right? You can own second, third, fourth, whatever.
exactly, exactly. So it just makes sense. I mean, for whether you want to do and it's actually too, what a lot of people do, they own a lot of second homes in South Carolina. They live in one, they rent the other one. So it's very common that people carry 2 to 3 properties at a time in our area because it's just so affordable.
Great insight. So thank you
Yes.
so much for that.
Thank
I
you.
would appreciate all the knowledge that you've passed over today. Possibly there might be a viewer out here that might think that, okay, maybe they want to start a real estate
Yes.
career, and they might want to look at the US. So, real great insight shared by Maria. So, thank you
Thank you
so
so
much for
much.
joining me tonight.
Yes.
And we should do this sometime again,
I would
where
love
you
it.
can possibly discuss one of your listings that you have. We can attract someone to buy out there. So
Yes, I
it'd
would
be
love
it'd
that.
be
And Morteza, I'm part also, like, I love learning, and I'm always, go to these like seminars and this and coaching. And I do have an amazing coaching ecosystem, that I have access to agents from all over the country.
okay.
And so that would be no problem if anybody has any questions, even if I don't know. And even in information, I'm pretty sure people like watch it from like, oh my God, what? Because things are always changing. Information is always changing. But if they have any questions, absolutely. If I don't know the answer, I'm a great, resource. I can find it for them or refer them an agent in another state. So we can absolutely, do that. And maybe next time what we can do is, I would love to learn more about the UK and how it works.
Absolutely. You can
And
ask me questions next time.
yes, yes, I
But
would
thank you
love
so
that.
much, and
Thank you.
let's do it again sometime. So thank you
I
so
would
much
love
for
that.
joining me.
Thank you. Have a
Have a
great
great
day.
day. You too.
Bye.
Bye bye. So, guys, that was Maria from South Carolina, an affiliated agent of Century 21. If you have any questions about South Carolina, like she said, she's available to get you the agents from anywhere in the US, do contact her and send her a follow and discuss your real estate market up in the US. So thank you so much for tuning in. For all the viewers that tuned in, this live story is going to be on my live for the next 24 hours. So anyone that is interested in investing in the US, do send them to my profile to have a look at. So thank you so much, guys. Have a great evening and see you tomorrow, where I've got two more live sessions, one at 12 and one at 3 p.m. UK time. Take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.